This high school student, Jong-gu, was being bullied. His only crime? Refusing to help a group of delinquents cheat on a test. As punishment, they forced him to stand at attention right there in the park. Jong-gu was terrified, tears welling up in his eyes, but the bullies just kept taunting and jeering him relentlessly. One of them, still fuming, kicked him. Jong-gu stumbled, managed to get back on his feet, only to be punched to the ground by another bully. They demanded to know if he'd learned his lesson, but Jong-gu remained defiant, insisting he would never help them cheat. Seeing his stubbornness, the ringleader kicked him again, and every time Jong-gu tried to stand, he was met with another brutal kick. Two girls who were with the bullies egged them on, fueling the fire. Unbeknownst to them, a girl passing by witnessed the entire scene and started recording their actions on her phone. She stepped forward and warned them to stop or she'd post the video online. Facing this seemingly frail girl who wasn't afraid to stand up to them, the four bullies, instead of backing down, continued their verbal abuse. The girl calmly told Jong-gu to leave, but, paralyzed by fear and the bully's presence, he couldn't bring himself to move. At that point, one of the girls stepped towards the girl with the phone, ready to teach her a lesson. But the girl completely immobilized her attacker in a flash of lightning-fast moves. Seeing her friend in trouble, the other girl rushed in, only to be effortlessly tossed aside, landing next to her incapacitated friend. The ringleader, seeing his crew getting humiliated, stepped forward, showing off some moves he probably thought were impressive. Let's just say his martial arts skills were lacking. Before he could even react, he was taken down with a series of swift strikes, landing hard on the ground. Seeing another bully foolish enough to approach, the girl clenched her fist and delivered a powerful uppercut, sending him crashing down. Without missing a beat, she spun around and delivered a sharp kick with her pristine white sneakers to the ringleader, who now couldn't even get back on his feet. Jong-gu watched the whole thing in stunned silence, completely awestruck. He couldn't believe someone could be so skilled. He soon learned her name was Chae-young, and she was the national karate champion of South Korea. Her father was even more impressive, a karate black belt who ran his dojo. Growing up under her father's influence, Chae-young had mastered various fighting techniques from a young age. This explained why she had never lost a fight against bullies. Chae-young had a strong sense of justice and couldn't stand seeing the weak being bullied, so she always stepped in to defend them. However, her constant involvement in fights had led to numerous suspensions from school. This wasn't the first time she was facing expulsion. As she walked away, the bullies, too intimidated to retaliate, could only pray that she would never return. Left with no choice, Chae-young's father had to transfer her to a new school. On their way, he specifically warned her to stay out of other people's business, reminding her that bullying happened everywhere. But, ironically, just after parting ways with her father, she stumbled upon another group of thugs picking on none other than Jong-gu. Once again, Chae-young couldn't stand by and watch, and she intervened. As fate, or perhaps misfortune, would have it, she later discovered those bullies were in her new class. Reeling from their recent humiliating defeat, the two bullies kept their heads down, too ashamed to look anyone in the eye. Jong-gu, on the other hand, was ecstatic. He wouldn't have to live in fear of being bullied anymore. He tried to strike up a conversation with Chae-young, but she brushed him off. Disappointed but undeterred, he waited until after school to approach her again, wanting to express his gratitude for her intervention. However, Chae-young told him to stay away. She explained that, more than the bullies themselves, she despised those who were too weak and cowardly to fight back. Jong-gu's timid nature was rooted in his family circumstances. His father had passed away a few years prior, leaving him and his mother to run their small restaurant alone. Without his father's protection, the restaurant often became a target for troublemakers. That very night, two drunk men refused to pay their bill. Jong-gu's mother simply reminded them that it was getting late, but one of the men shoved her to the ground. Jong-gu tried to intervene, only to be met with a barrage of blows from the thugs. His mother, fearing for his safety, told them to keep the money, just so they would stop. Living in this constant state of vulnerability had shaped Jong-gu's timid personality. However, Jong-gu was determined to change. Chae-young's appearance had sparked a flicker of hope within him. The next day, the two girls who had been with the bullies, accompanied by Yun, confronted Chae-young. Yun demanded that she delete the video, but Chae-young flatly refused. Seeing her defiance, Yun slapped her across the face. But Chae-young effortlessly blocked the blow with one hand and then, with a swift leg sweep, sent Yun sprawling to the ground. The other two girls, witnessing this, quickly fled, leaving Yun standing there, utterly embarrassed. Jong-gu happened to witness this entire exchange. After school, he mustered the courage to approach Chae-young again, this time asking her to teach him how to fight. Initially, Chae-young was going to refuse, but after hearing about Jong-gu and his mother's situation, her heart softened. She agreed to take him to her father's dojo and enroll him as a student. However, right after Jong-gu paid the tuition fee, Chae-young, much to his surprise, demanded a cut. Jong-gu, focused on his goal of becoming stronger, didn't think much of it. The cost seemed insignificant compared to the potential reward. But when he arrived for his first lesson, he realized that, aside from Chae-young, he was the only student in the entire dojo. Out of shape and unaccustomed to physical exertion, he struggled with the training. Chae-young's father pushed him to his limits with demanding stretches and exercises, while Chae-young oversaw his training with the intensity of a drill sergeant. Meanwhile, Yun, still smarting from her humiliation, sought help from two brothers in the student council. Kang-sik, upon hearing her story, was furious and vowed to help her regain her honor. Hae-sung, on the other hand, seemed indifferent, barely paying attention. It turned out that these three were entangled in a love triangle. Kang-sik liked Yun, but she was infatuated with Hae-sung. Soon enough, two of the bullies from their class found Chae-young and delivered a message. The student council president requested her presence for a chat. Despite knowing the potential danger, Chae-young wasn't afraid. She wanted to see what the school's supposed top dog could do to her. This fearlessness intrigued Hae-sung. When Chae-young arrived and saw Yun standing beside the student council president, she immediately understood what was going on. Kang-sik then questioned Chae-young about why she had attacked the others. She calmly explained that she was merely defending herself and recounted the entire incident of the four bullies ganging up on Jong-gu for refusing to help them cheat. Hae-sung, understanding the situation and recognizing the injustice of the bullies' actions, overruled Kang-sik's objections and let Chae-young go. Yun, witnessing this, was furious. Kang-sik criticized Hae-sung for making such a decision unilaterally, and a rift began to form between the two friends. Later that evening, during a student council meeting, Kang-sik, without consulting his brother, used his authority to recruit a hulking, shaved-head ex-con. Everyone else was chatting and laughing, but Hae-sung sat there, feeling isolated and disillusioned with the meaningless routine of his days. To make matters worse, Kang-sik revealed his intention to join a local gang, a plan that required a hefty initiation fee. Short on cash, he enlisted the ex-con to start extorting money from the other students. Hae-sung warned him against playing with fire, but Kang-sik stubbornly refused to listen. A heated argument erupted between the two. The following day, Kang-sik was confronted by members of the gang, led by a menacing figure named Sung-min. Sung-min threatened him, demanding the full initiation fee or face the consequences. Faced with their overwhelming power, Kang-sik could only lower his head and submit to Sung-min's intimidation. When Sung-min learned that Hae-sung had no intention of joining, they approached him with a different proposition. They offered him free membership, believing that his presence would facilitate their business within the school. Sung-min planned to exploit the female students by connecting them with wealthy older men seeking companionship. Hae-sung was disgusted by the offer. He would rather die than associate with such scum. Meanwhile, Kang-sik, desperate for money, set his sights on Jong-gu. His two goons quickly cornered Jong-gu and were about to drag him away when Hae-sung happened upon the scene. He intervened, creating a distraction to allow Jong-gu to escape. However, the goons, insistent on following Kang-sik's orders, refused to let Jong-gu go. Seeing their relentless bullying, Hae-sung finally snapped. With 3 punches and 2 kicks, he quickly subdued them. But just then, the ex-con launched a surprise attack, catching Hae-sung off guard with a brutal kick. Before Hae-sung could react, he was pummeled to the ground. Ruthless and focused only on collecting money for Kang-sik, the ex-con continued his assault, not caring who his victim was. Fortunately, Chae-young arrived just in time and ordered him to stop. The ex-con ignored her, but his arrogance proved to be his downfall. With a single, well-placed kick, Chae-young sent him flying. Then, in a flurry of lightning-fast strikes, 1 kick, 2 kicks, 3 kicks, followed by a devastating roundhouse kick, she completely knocked him out. Even Hae-sung, lying on the ground, was awestruck by her display of skill. After the fight, Chae-young picked up Jong-gu's bag and prepared to leave with him. As Chae-young and Jong-gu were about to leave, Hae-sung, struggling with his injuries, called out to Jong-gu, asking him how Chae-young had become so skilled. Upon learning that her family owned a karate dojo, he immediately enrolled, becoming the dojo's second student. From that point on, he turned his life around, dedicating himself to the path of righteousness. Both he and Jong-gu trained diligently every day. Whenever they met, Jong-gu would strike a characteristic karate pose, and Hae-sung would politely reciprocate with the same pose, followed by a gesture of encouragement, before heading to the changing room. At lunchtime, Chae-young's father would treat them to expired ramen, which they both ate with gusto. Due to his lack of physical conditioning, Jong-gu often encountered minor setbacks during training, while Hae-sung consistently completed each exercise with ease. One day, arriving at the dojo and seeing Jong-gu practicing with a jump rope, Hae-sung greeted him with the customary karate pose, received a nod in return, then proceeded to greet the instructor and quickly change into his training clothes. During a break, Chae-young's father bought ice cream for everyone. Hae-sung grabbed two without hesitation and, noticing that Jong-gu hadn't managed to get one, shared his ice cream, much to Jong-gu's delight. Later, during sit-up practice, seeing Hae-sung using pink weights for added resistance, a competitive Jong-gu grabbed even heavier weights. Not to be outdone, Hae-sung added a sandbag to his routine. An exasperated Jong-gu then grabbed the dojo's fire extinguisher, only to be stopped by Chae-young, who swiftly chopped his arm with her hand, preventing his childish act. At dinner time, Chae-young's father served them his usual expired ramen. Noticing Hae-sung's lack of appetite, he kindly hand-fed him a piece of kimchi. That day, Chae-young's father had to go on a business trip, leaving the dojo in their care for a few days. Before leaving, he specifically instructed them to look after his daughter. Later, while cleaning up, Hae-sung seized the opportunity to ask Jong-gu if he was free that weekend. He had 3 movie tickets and wanted to invite both of them. Chae-young initially wasn't planning to join the two boys, but seeing their genuine enthusiasm, the proud girl feigned reluctance before agreeing. After the movie, Hae-sung suggested they grab a bite to eat and proposed a game to decide who would pay. They ended up at an arcade playing a ball-tossing game. Despite her exceptional karate skills, Chae-young couldn't hit a single target after 10 tries. Her luck was so bad, she joked that she couldn't even win a lottery. Defeated, she gave up and stepped aside. Hae-sung then encouraged Jong-gu to try, initially intending to console him if he failed. To everyone's surprise, Jong-gu, the studious one, displayed an unexpected talent, hitting every single target out of 100 throws. But Chae-young wasn't fooled. She challenged them to a competition she knew she would excel at, and the resulting score left both boys speechless. That evening, Jong-gu treated them to a delicious meal at his family's restaurant, cooked by his mother. Meanwhile, the bullies, now busy collecting protection money for the gang, were raking in cash. No longer bothering Jong-gu, they had shifted their focus to another vulnerable student. Jong-gu couldn't bear to watch his classmate being bullied. Remembering Chae-young's kindness, he didn't want anyone else to suffer the same way. The ringleader warned him to get lost or be next, but Jong-gu stood his ground. One of the bullies lunged forward with a kick, but Jong-gu, no longer his timid self, charged forward, tackling the second bully and yelling for his classmate to run and get a teacher. However, the ringleader was faster, catching the fleeing student. Jong-gu was then subjected to a brutal beating. After school, a dejected Jong-gu returned to the dojo and asked Chae-young's father if there was any martial art he could learn quickly. Seeing his bruised and battered student, the sensei realized that continuing this way wasn't a viable solution. He decided to teach Jong-gu a secret technique, the knife hand. This technique focused power into the pinky finger, emphasizing speed, precision, and force to deliver a debilitating blow. He instructed Jong-gu to practice it 1,000 times a day. Meanwhile, Hae-sung, through his interactions with Chae-young and Jong-gu, had come to understand the true meaning of friendship. He not only approached Kang-sik to announce his resignation from the student council but also demanded that they leave Chae-young alone. Kang-sik argued that he was doing all of this for their future, envisioning them starting a business together after graduation. Hae-sung countered that success should be earned through hard work, not exploitation and oppression. Their friendship shattered. They engaged in a fierce brawl in a warehouse, a 28-round slugfest that ended with them parting ways. Back at the dojo, Chae-young tended to Hae-sung's wounds. He warned her to be wary of the bullies, but Chae-young, naturally, wasn't afraid of them. Meanwhile, Kang-sik, meeting with Yun, plotted a more sinister scheme, one that aimed to permanently neutralize Chae-young. The next day, Chae-young received a text from Yun, apologizing for the past and inviting her to the lounge for some delicious bubble tea. Despite suspecting a trap, Chaeyoung decided to go. Upon arriving, Yun was all apologies and humility, urging Chaeyoung to drink the bubble tea while it was still hot. As Chaeyoung was about to finish her drink, Yun, seemingly struck by a pang of guilt, knocked the cup over, revealing that the bullies had spiked it. Kang-sik, enraged by Yun's betrayal, slapped her across the face. Before Chaeyoung could react, the ex-con, lurking nearby, launched a surprise attack, restraining her. Chaeyoung was in serious danger. Meanwhile, Jonggu overheard the bullies discussing their plan and, sensing trouble, raced back to the dojo to find Haesung. Together, they rushed back to school, only to be intercepted by the ex-con. He led them to an empty gymnasium, where they found themselves surrounded by a dozen menacing figures. It was a trap all orchestrated by the bullies. Seeing the situation, the two immediately adopted fighting stances, and a fierce battle erupted. The ex-con, recognizing Haesung as the greater threat, ordered the others to focus their attacks on him while he waited for an opportunity to strike from the side. Haesung skillfully countered each blow, then quickly located Jonggu, shielding him behind his back. Meanwhile, Jonggu discovered, to his surprise, that the knife hand technique he'd been diligently practicing was actually quite effective. He began to fiercely counterattack, taking down several opponents. However, Haesung was suddenly grappled and immobilized. Seeing this, Jonggu rushed forward, without hesitation, delivering a powerful knife hand strike. While this freed Haesung, Jonggu found himself surrounded once again. Haesung seized the opportunity to take down the remaining bullies, finally facing off against the exhausted ex-con in a one-on-one showdown. With a single, well-timed roundhouse kick, Haesung ended the fight. Without pausing, they immediately set off to find Chaeyoung. Meanwhile, Kang-sik had Chaeyoung tied up and was about to inflict serious harm when Haesung and Jonggu burst into the room. Enraged and humiliated, he punched a nearby window. Haesung initially intended to call the police, but Kang-sik threatened to disfigure Chaeyoung if he did. To prevent this, they reluctantly complied with his demands. Haesung slowly stepped forward as instructed, then was forced to his knees. Kang-sik, still consumed by rage, unleashed a barrage of punches and kicks, berating Haesung for betraying their friendship. Seeing Haesung nearing his breaking point, Jonggu seized an opening and delivered a knife hand strike, which landed with surprising force. Infuriated, Kang-sik charged at Jonggu, only to be met with another knife hand strike. However, Jonggu's limited repertoire was quickly exploited by Kang-sik, who grabbed his arm and delivered a series of punches, leaving him unable to stand. But Kang-sik had walked into a trap. Chaeyoung, having freed herself, launched a swift kick, followed by a devastating chop. As she pummeled him, she declared, "Fighting without righteousness is mere violence. Righteousness without strength is simply helplessness." Despite his efforts, Kang-sik couldn't land a blow on Chaeyoung. Having had enough, she finished him off with a powerful eagle gazing at rabbit technique, sending him crashing to the ground. Jonggu, struggling to his feet, helped Haesung up. Once again, Chaeyoung had vanquished the forces of evil within the school. And that's the end of the movie. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on more great films.